Hi everyone, this is the math e-learning lesson for Friday, April 3rd. Today we're in lesson 111, circle graphs. Another name for a circle graph is a pie graph, given that name because it is shaped like a pie. It's also called circle graph because it is a circle. So it's done as a circle, done as a circle and divided into pie-like pieces. I have one here for you to take a look at. And so here very simply is a pie graph or circle graph, and they can be done in different ways. Now in this one, of course, as I said, they're all divided, the pieces are always pie-like pieces. But this one I wrote in each piece. And this is, let's say for example, I did a survey of all of you on favorite colors. And based on the size of the pieces, you can see, look at that, that purple was the most liked. And then the next largest piece would be this one here, which is blue, followed by pink, green, and red. Excuse me. Okay, now this is one way that a pie graph or a circle graph can be done, and that is to write on the pieces, and you can just simply tell by the size of the piece which was the most favorite color, which is the least favorite, and so on. The other ways that it can be done is sometimes a pie graph will be done where the pieces are just simply colored in. And then there's a key that's given, and this color, this color means this, and that color means something else. So that can be done also. Okay, this one, though, I just simply wrote the names of the colors and said, okay, if this was a class survey on favorite colors, which was the color that was most chosen, which is the one that was least chosen, and so on. Now, the one that you see in your book for lesson 111 shows a circle graph of activities of 100 children at the park. Okay, 100 children at the park. And so you can see all of the information filled in there. You have playing ball, eating, flying kites, skating, catching pollywogs, other, and hiking. So you have all of the different activities that the children did at the park and the number of children that did each of those activities based on 100 children in the park. Now notice there's a category called other. And other would simply mean that those children did not do any of these listed activities, but they all didn't do the same thing either. Maybe somebody, read a book, maybe somebody sat and had a snack, all different things that don't fall into those other categories. You have 3 questions to answer based on this circle graph or pie graph. And A says, how many children were there altogether? Now, you can say, well, typically, if you're looking at the graph, you would need to total up all of the children. But in this case, all you had to do was read the title of the graph. And remember, I've always told you that with graphs and diagrams and charts and maps, there is always a title. And the title lets you know what it is you are looking at. So in this case, the title was Activities of 100 Children in the Park. So they told you right there, there's your answer. How many children are there altogether? There were 100 children. B, which activity were most children doing? Based on the size of the piece, but here they've also filled in numbers. But you could answer this without those numbers filled in because the pieces reflect the greatest number or the fewest. So here you can see that the most children were doing what? Flying kites. It's the largest piece, and also if you look at the numbers, it is the largest number of students, 20. C says, how many children were not catching pollywogs? So in this case, you know that there were 100 children altogether. Oops. Okay, so you have 100 children altogether. Those catching pollywogs were 19. And this question is how many children were not catching pollywogs. So if you had 100 children altogether, 19 were catching pollywogs. The rest then were not. And so you have a simple subtraction problem. 10 minus 9 is 1, and 9 minus 1 is 8. So you have 81 children who were not catching pollywogs. Turn the page. Let's look at the practice. It says, use the information from the graph on the preceding page to answer these questions. Preceding, that prefix pre means before. Preceding page, the page that comes before this one. That graph that we were just looking at, the 100 children in the park. So we're using that to answer these questions. Question A, how many children were either hiking or skating? How many were either hiking or skating? So now you need to go back to the graph with the activities. Okay. And using the graph, we find out that there were 12 students that were hiking, and there were 15 students that were skating. And again, the question asked, how many children were either hiking or skating? And I know sometimes some of you aren't sure what to do with this, but because it's saying how many were doing either of these activities, you actually have to add this up. Because you had 12 who were hiking and 15 who were skating, we total it up. We get a total of 27, so now we know there were 27 children who were doing either of these two activities. Okay? B, how many more children were flying kites than were catching pollywogs? How many more of one thing than something else? You need to subtract. So, how many more children were flying kite than catching pollywogs? You had 20 children flying kites. You had 19 children catching pollywogs. We subtract, 20 minus 19 is 1. So we actually only had one more child who was flying kites than catching pollywogs. And C, what number should be in the section named Other? So go back to that graph. Again, we know that there were 100 children altogether. Okay, we had 100 children at the park. And we have 12 that were hiking. We have 18 playing ball. We have 15 who were eating, 20 who were flying kites, 15 who were skating, 19 that were catching pollywogs, and then we have that category Other. The other has not, there's no number that has been filled in. It hasn't been identified as to how many were doing something other than all of these other activities. So in order to figure out what number goes in that other category, we would need to add up the number of children that we see doing all of these other activities. So we know that 8 plus 2 is 10, 5 plus 5 is 10, 10 plus 10 is 20. 20 plus 9, 29. Okay, and then we add 2 plus 1, 3, 4, 5. 5 plus 2 is 7, 8, 9. So with all of the activities on that graph, that's a total of 99 children. And it did tell us that there were 100 children at the park. So if we know that 99 children were busy doing all of these activities, how many children fell into that other category? Simply 1. 100 minus the 99 that we've totaled up gives us 1 student that belongs in that other category. Okay. All right, there you go. Down at the bottom for the problem set, you see another circle graph. This one is called How Dan Spent His Day. How he spent his day. His day meaning one day. And so we see the number of hours that he spent doing all of these different activities. So you need to remember that we're looking at the number of hours spent on all these different activities, and this is how Dan spent one day. Then that means we're looking at a total of how many hours? 24, because there are 24 hours in one day. So you will work today in completing lesson 111, numbers 1 to 30. Remember, I want you to work carefully, neatly, slowly. Think about what you're doing. You're looking for the number, total number correct. You want to see how well you can do. Going back, you go back into the textbook, into the previous lessons if you need to refer to things, but you do want to see how well you are able to do and to work neatly, carefully. Go back and check over your work. There's no need to rush through this. And then also, when you are finished, please make sure you are spending time on IXL and Extra Math. I'm logging into those daily, looking to see who's spending their time on reviewing and practicing. Remember, Extra Math, let's get going. Those of you who are there, you want to get out of Extra Math and into IXL. Okay, work carefully, and if you need my help, please let me know. I'll see you later.